Confession. True Confession by Mike. I have no idea how this thing works. You know how I know? If any of the lights ever come on, I take it to the shop. See, I got this, and I got a hole I stick it in, I turn it on, and I drive it. I have no idea how this thing works at all. And there was a time in my life when I kind of treated spiritual choices like that, and some of you are probably doing it today, right? You're going to wait and try this Jesus solution until you know more about it, until you understand how religion works. And I'm going to say this to you. I appreciate your intention, but oftentimes there's too many other dangerous factors. You know, we've talked about it in the last few podcasts. There's death, there's sickness, there's so many things that can happen. Let's don't wait until we figure this religion thing out and this Jesus thing out before we make a decision. There's a cool story in the New Testament that many of you have heard before. It's over in John chapter 9, and there was this kid that had been born blind, to be quite honest with you. His family was still trying to take care of him. He had gotten on up into age, and one day Jesus walked by, and it's the darndest story. You remember this one? It's kind of gross. Jesus spit on the ground, in the clay, made mud, stuck it on his eyes, and told him to go wash. He went and washed, and Scripture says he came back seeing, just like that. When he met Jesus, his entire life changed. He didn't have a clue about all that church stuff. He didn't have a clue about all of Jesus' life, and maybe he had heard a little bit about him during that time, but he was not in the Jesus know. But yet, when the Pharisees, those old preachers came by to ask him, hey, you need to tell us again what happened, because the Pharisees was always trying to trap Jesus. Here's what he said. And I'll give you the scripture version, and then I'm going to give you the Texas version. In Luke chapter 19, in John chapter 9, let me see if I can find it real quick. He says this, you know what? Whether this guy is a bad guy, they were talking about Jesus, whether he's a bad guy or not, here's what I know. I know I once was blind and now I see. How deep is that? In other words, this guy says, I'm not going to wait until I understand all this spiritual stuff. I'm not going to wait until I understand every detail about what God requires and how God can change me. I just know that I met Jesus. He changed my life, and from this day forward, this is the way we're going to go. The bottom line is, don't wait until you figure out this Jesus stuff before you give your life to Him. Today, right where you sit, right where you stand, right where you drive, you can ask Jesus to forgive you of your mess and ask Him to take control of your life. That's the bottom line. God bless.